Postal here. So today we're actually going to be watching a recording that I pre-recorded. Trying to test out some new stuff that'll allow me to play games, but without having to be on all the time. Meaning, like, sometimes I just want to fly and not have to do a commentary while I'm flying. I just want to concentrate on what the hell's going on. This is a prime example of why I want to do that. So in this game, I am taking out the J7W3. Fast becoming, if not already became, one of my just straight up favorite planes in the game. And we're going to take a look at why in this battle. So we're in a tier 10 battle, of course. It's the J7W3. And we're up against an EF-131, which, if anybody knows anything about anything at tier 10 or tier 9, having an enemy tier 10 German bomber, unless you've got a hard counter to that freaking dude, you're gonna struggle mightily. But I'm testing out some perspective here on my J7W3. What I'm trying to do is really utilize its air-to-ground capabilities. This plane has some very hard-hitting... Oop, I missed that thing. Gonna crash? No? Okay, good. Very, very hard-hitting 30mm cannons, especially against light targets like the tents that we just shot there. What's really funny is the enemy bomber, the Tu-12 or whatever it was, actually did that bomb drop and missed that little hard target, and I was able to knock it out with my 30mm cannons. Again, these are very, very hard-hitting 30mm cannons. If I remember correctly, 1,200 damage a second on this thing. Like, it's crazy, right? Great maneuverability. Not like the turniest thing in the world, but it's workable for sure with these super heavy hitting cannons. The plane is balanced out, you know, with these hard hitting cannons and great maneuverability with very, very piss poor altitude performance. You're going to notice, I think, most of this battle I'm at relatively low altitude, just because that's this plane's wheelhouse. It is the higher tier planes on the 0 line, so it shouldn't really surprise anybody, even at tier 8, 9, and 10, that you've got really bad altitude performance. That whole line has bad altitude performance. But it is still kind of surprising just how poor the altitude performance is on this plane. The airspeed is okay at best. And again, that's really to balance out these cannons, just how incredibly strong they hit, and just how much of an impact you can have. I don't think we'll see it in this game, but one thing that this plane definitely does excel at is taking out ground attackers. 1,200 damage a second will eat through ground attackers, especially just because they don't have the maneuverability to get away from your heavy hitting damage output, right? So let's go ahead here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to outcap an EF-131. The enemy bomber has already gotten our command center or military base, excuse me, on the other side. Let's see if we can flip this as quickly as possible. Perfect. What are we going to do here? Let's just try to knock out whatever's in front of us. It's really what it comes down to. So we've knocked out the wing on this TA-183, which tells me I might actually be able to stick with him. Remember, knocking out a wing slows down the aircraft's top, reduces the overall top speed. Then I knocked out his engine. Awesome. Glad I stuck with him. Knocked him out. Let's keep on moving here. They're probably going to flip the center here if the bomber is... Well, he's right above me. He's still reloading, so he's on the way to the military base. We're going to try to defend this sector a little bit, but we're not going to hang out here, I don't think. I shouldn't hang out here anyway. Looks like I'm going to try to kill this guy and then move along. J7W2 has the same exact guns as I do, and no messing around with that kind of stuff. Plane is right above me, but again, ain't nobody got time for that. He's going the opposite way. I've got to be in the mentality of ABC. I've got to always be capturing. And so we just need to move along. I'm up 4 sectors to 1. In any other game, I'd be like, cool, we're set up for victory here. But EF-131, like it's just, you know, you don't sit back in that kind of situation. You need to keep putting the pressure on. You need to have them make a mistake if it's at all possible. The pilot that we're up against is a good pilot. Lipstick Torpedo is somebody I've flown against before. It always has a positive impact on the battle, if not just straight up overpowering. So don't take this lightly. And dang it, missed that friggin' tent. So one thing that you need to be mindful of when it comes to the 30mm cannons is really you should be tap 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 kind of thing. Holding down is going to set yourself up for failure, unless it's like a last minute type thing, because you can see the guns are overheated. Once the guns overheat, they don't fire as often. They're much less accurate, which isn't really relevant when you're shooting at the ground. But the DPS is what the important part is here. I'm taking some pretty drastic angles here that I wouldn't normally take, and I'm kind of getting frustrated not knocking out these targets. Don't know why I didn't just go for the soft targets right in front of me there. Wasting my own time. Right there. Go for those, Postal. Yeah, you should have gone for those the first time. Just see how quickly these cannons melt soft targets like tents. It really does feel like a ground attacker. When I focus on doing ground damage, feels like very much a ground attacker. Now, this isn't even as fast as like a 1102B, mainly because you don't have the full 60 seconds worth of boost that an 1102 or B has, or even an IL-40P. But you can see that I'm definitely putting out the damage, putting the full scope of this plane to use. Let's go ahead and knock out some planes while we're at it. We're heading straight across again. Like, yeah, I'm defending, but I'm only defending as a means to get across the map. I'm not staying here as if I was in a Yak 30 and just chilling out and owning this sector. There's planes coming towards me. So as they come towards me, I'm not wasting too much energy to, hello, sir, to go chasing them down. We do have Squall line now, so any of these kills is end of life, no respawn. There's enough planes here, and I needed some health back anyway. Again, these planes are all within my reach. I'm not trying to, you know, go 5,000 feet to get them, although this guy's moving away from me at an annoying pace. And if we can defend the center here, now that the Squall line's here, can have a significant impact since they are not going to be respawning. Come on, accuracy. Sometimes it feels like after Squall line, the accuracy drops by 50%. It's like, obviously I was hitting my shots earlier. Why am I not able to hit my shots now? So we are still up 4 sectors to 1. So I'm not super stressing out at capturing the military base at this point. What I want to do is knock out planes that could knock out my planes, especially since they're all basically right around me here. At this point, we might as well go for the military base, but we've got this game pretty well locked up. And that's got to be your mentality when you're against a plane that you feel like you don't have, you know, the deck is stacked against you, excuse me. You've got to try your hardest, right? And even if you're in a plane that's not built for capturing, and I believe this plane is built for capturing, but let's say you're in a fighter, you still have to take that mentality of, I've got to be capturing sectors. If you're not, then you're never going to outwin and outduel an EF-131 or something along those lines. So I was super surprised. I was proud to get a Gabreski. I've actually got more Gabreskis in this plane than any other plane that I own, which is mind-blowing. And yeah, I'm really proud of this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my live response to the game. And I hope you enjoy that. And thank you for hanging out with me as an overage. Well, all right. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting to win that, but I'll take it. The thing with the J7Ws is that they do more ground damage than I think people tend to realize, especially those that are flying them. They're excellent air-to-air combatants, right? You saw how quickly 30mm cannons can just completely tear up an aircraft. But those 30mm cannons are really good versus ground targets, especially soft targets, but over time they'll knock down heavy targets as well. And so this just kind of highlighted that. Yeah, we kind of had to be a ground attacker full time there to get those sectors. It's what we needed to get sectors. We got 4 sectors captured, 12 aerial targets, 13 ground targets. A pretty low amount of damage to air targets for tier 10 especially. I've gotten above 10,000 pretty consistently in this plane. But the focus was the sector capture. It wasn't necessarily aerial targets or ground targets. Is what the heck do I have to do to get this sector? And so a lot of it just revolved around that, and that's probably why I've got so many ground targets. Yeah, so that was a fun game. It wasn't a game where we had to interact directly with Lipstick. I only saw him once, and I wasn't very close to him to be able to actually do any direct damage to him. That was all about, again, what could we do to outcap an EF-131, which is a little mind-blowing. So let's take a quick look at my setup on the J7W3, quickly becoming one of my favorite planes in the game. Let's see. So let's start off with a pilot first and foremost. So I have done some adjustments to my pilot here. Marksman 1, yes, you need. I don't know if it's the first 2 points that you would have with this particular pilot. I also suspect most of you have taken your pilot, from tier 1 all the way up to tier 10. It could change on this line because you do have, you start off with fighters, the 0 line up until tier 7, and then you change to multi-role fighters, so it could throw you off when you're moving those pilots and their overall setup. But personally, I've only got a 7-point pilot on here. I'm going for Marksman 2 next. That's going to take a while. So we'll see. We'll see if I actually decide to go with that. Some skills that I found incredibly helpful with this particular pilot. Battle tested. Reduces the chance of injury to my pilot. Improves the aircraft controllability by 25% when my aircraft's wings, tails, or fuselage are critically damaged. What does that mean? It means I'm able to keep my pilot in longer, which means I'm able to get my guns on target better, which is really important with a plane like this. You're basically a glass cannon. You're a really good cannon, but you're really weak airframe. So keeping my pilot in there and being able to control my plane better, I think is incredibly helpful. This might actually be the first skill that I would recommend getting if you go on your first 2 points. Battle tested goes a long way to keeping your aircraft viable. Resilience is the next item that I've gone for here. This is one that I'm starting to lean towards a lot more recently. It's something VBAT and I talked about a long time ago. But ever since he did the video and had the conversation with Kime Invictus, Resilience has really kind of stood out as one of those skills that if you're getting stuck in, Resilience is a good skill to have. And this plane is always stuck in. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But Resilience repairs all critical damage and heals all crew injuries. Reduces engine and weapon overheating by 50% and increases maneuverability and engine thrust by 5%. Huge buff across the board, right? That happens when your aircraft loses 70% of its hit points. Says the skill is activated automatically once per sortie. There might actually be a bug where that can happen more than once per sortie. If you can get your hit points above that 30% threshold and then reduce back down, we've got to kind of play with that. But even if it only happens once, it's totally once per sortie. I mean, it's totally worth the 3 skill points. On a plane like this where you are getting stuck in, you're going to be taking damage no matter how much I'm going for certain targets. It's just part of the job. And so something like Resilience can save you, and it has saved me. Combined with the battle tested, has really done me very well for this plane, and I don't have it as a survivability build on the plane. Let's take a look at the actual build. So I've got my pilot as a survivability build, right? The plane itself, I want to not be a survivability build. The plane itself, I want to be an attack build. Right now, it's not specialized. You may not know, multi-rolls in this game take forever to specialize, and so I'm flying this plane quite a bit, trying to get it specialized. I'll probably have 5 marks on both air and ground by the time I got this thing specialized, and that's just ridiculous, in my opinion. So what setup do I have right now? Well, right now I've got a balanced build. Its plane is not fast enough to have the G-suit be effective. And I don't want to utilize cockpit armor because that reduces your maneuverability, which is really your saving grace on this plane. I've gone with firing accuracy. I might take this off and put navigational radio equipment once I've specialized it and once I have Marksman 2. But in the meantime, the sight is the best option on this. Getting your guns on target, letting them able to do their damage is really, really important. The other item that I would say is whatever choice you choose is one of these 3. Any one of these 3 is actually going to be viable. It's kind of built towards your playstyle. I simply put gas operated action, which increases the rate of fire, on here because I had experimental gas operated action and I just thought, what the hell, let's try this out. It's worked out really well. It doesn't impact the accuracy. You'll notice on gas operated action, the negative aspect of that equipment is it reduces your overall accuracy. Experimental doesn't do that nearly as much, and so good, right? Another very viable option would be reinforced bolt carriers. Reinforced bolt carriers also reduce accuracy, but they do increase the burst length. That would be more of an equipment that you'd use if you don't have any kind of accuracy buff. At that point, you just want to be able to hold down the trigger for a little bit longer, and hopefully, more stuff sticks to the wall. But it is a negative impact to the firing accuracy overall, so reinforced bulk carriers is an option. Long gun barrels is another option that some people have gone with. That obviously increases the range of the guns. That means you're just being able to hit a little bit sooner. It doesn't negatively impact the accuracy, which is a good thing, but it does reduce the overall burst length. So basically, you're able to hit the target sooner, but not for as long. Kind of balances out in that aspect. Really, it goes towards your playstyle. I've gone with gas-operated action, which probably wouldn't have been what I would have gone with. I probably would have gone with long gun barrel. But because I've got the experimental version of it, I've gone with that, and it's done really well. It does a lot, puts out a lot of damage, as these 30mm cannons do. We're going to take a look at the overall upgrades of the plane in just a second. The last 2 options you can kind of finagle with. I've got a balanced build right now where I've got the improved uprated engine and the lightweight wing frame. So it's giving me a little bit of maneuverability, a little bit of airspeed. I'm still contemplating what I'm going to go ahead and do once I get this plane specialized. Off the top of my head, I'll probably add polished skin here in the locked equipment slot for my speed. And I'm either going to keep the uprated engine or I might go with lightweight power unit to get some more maneuverability. We'll kind of see where it fits. I'm really enjoying this plane not specialized, so I can't imagine I could screw it up too much with specialization by making, certain aspects of it even better. But, I've screwed things up. As far as my consumables are concerned, first aid package, the consumables for the cockpit I really haven't had to use. My pilot doesn't get knocked out all that often thanks to the pilot skills. And on top of that, this plane doesn't catch on fire all that often, which is kind of weird considering you're a Japanese plane. So I'm keeping in the first aid package just to keep it in. It is really important to keep your pilot in. But, fire extinguisher is certainly a viable option if you don't have this skill set built. One thing that I've noticed actually is, I don't know if it's because of battle tested or because of resilience, but I haven't had to put in firefighter skill immediately, which you typically have to do on basically every Japanese pilot. Firefighter is especially Japanese fighters. Firefighter skill is incredibly helpful. It's almost a necessity. When I get my next point, it'll almost certainly be what I put 1 point on until I get enough points to choose a larger universal or specialist pilot skill. But I haven't really seen this plane catch on fire, even with some of the impacts to the percentages with my equipment. Anyway. Pneumatic control assist is almost certainly a must. This plane really is a dogfighter. Yeah, it's not the turniest thing that you've got out there, but pneumatic control assist will help you get your guns on target quicker. And all you need is a couple hits with these guns. Like I said, we'll take a look at the guns in just a second to show you just what we mean. So pneumatic control assist is the more helpful of the two items, the three items, excuse me, here. Once I have it specialized, I'm still not even going to go with the bleed system. I'm going to go with the emergency control system, and that will allow me to, if I've got my wings or tail knocked out and I already have resilience activated and it's not going to activate again, then I can put my wings and tail back in. Again, that's the survivability aspect of it. Engine cooling is almost certainly a must with this plane. You're not a very fast plane, but the additional 10 seconds worth of boost every once in a while is overly helpful, and just universal ammo, because why not? Let's take a look at the actual plane and see what we're looking at when it comes to these wonderful cannons and all that jazz, right? I'm gonna tease you with the bombs first. They're the same stupid bombs that you have like throughout the game, basically. 250 kilogram bombs. They only do 4,400 damage apiece, 8,800 combined. They're not crazy great bombs. They just aren't. But that doesn't mean to ignore them. You were seeing what I was doing in a lot of those interactions. A couple shots with the guns knocks out the AA. One bomb drop knocks out the rest of the AA structure, and you move on with your life. Doing that is twofold. You're knocking out the AA guns, so you're taking less damage. That's just knocking out the gun part, right? Knocking out the heavy target of it, that's moving you towards capturing the sector. And so it's super important to be having that balance of saving yourself and also capturing the enemy sector. The bomb reload time is super long. It doesn't matter. What you want to do is when you're dropping your bombs, focus on the targets that would take too long to kill with your guns. And by doing that, you can have really good success with this and the J7W2, the J7W1 even, which has, I believe, the same exact bombs. And so use the bombs. They're there for a reason. I highly recommend them. These 30mm cannons. What are these 30mm cannons? They're shorter range, as most of the Japanese 30mm cannons are. Their high rate of fire, 300 damage per second per gun. You have 4 of them. Do the math. It's 1,200 damage a second, right? 1,200 damage a second. DGAF what the enemy plane is. I take out ground attackers all the time in this plane. I don't think I took out any in this battle, though. But all the time, you melt them down. 1,200 damage a second will take down a friggin' 2,400 hit point ground attacker in 2 seconds. If all your, cannons are firing. But it doesn't matter if it takes 5 seconds. 5 seconds is very quick time for a ground attacker to be like, doot, everything's fine. And now it's not, right? These cannons are so incredibly hard hitting that you can take some chances, especially if you've got accuracy buffs with the cannons and the pilot. You can take some chances on some planes that you wouldn't necessarily go after, just knowing that if you get the first hit on them, they're halfway to being dead. Another hit and they're going to be dead, right? And so you can take some cheeky attack angles, just knowing that as long as you hit your target, they're dead. Even though this is a bad interaction, it doesn't matter. You're able to melt them down that quickly. And so those cannons are what make this plane a Gabreski type plane for me. I'm able to knock out air targets pretty easily, and I'm able to take down ground targets because the cannons can also do some heavy lifting when it comes to air-to-ground capabilities. The airframe is the airframe. You have 600 hit points. Your jets are your jets. They have some freaking boost to them. The overall thing with this plane is it's not very fast for tier 10. It's got piss poor altitude performance, especially for tier 10. And so your envelope of ability is going to be that lower altitude. I only go to the higher altitudes when it's a one-on-one engagement and it's versus somebody that's distracted, right? Or it's I need to kill this air defense aircraft to get this sector, or we're going to lose the game. And then I do what I need to do to get the cap. The vast majority of the time you saw me in this battle, I was not going up high. There's no point. You lose even more airspeed. You lose your maneuverability, which is kind of your ace in the hole. Your ability to get guns on target to outmaneuver other aircraft. That's what's going to save you. And by going up to high altitude, you're going to hate life, right? The great thing about this plane is if you like the J7W1, you're going to love this plane. The Tier 8, 9, and 10 Japanese multi-role fighters are, just a progression of those planes. You get slightly better, well, not slightly, you get significantly better cannons when you go from Tier 8 to Tier 9. Same cannons at Tier 10, which just kind of shows you how strong they are at Tier 9. Same bombs all the way through. You just get better airspeed. You get better maneuverability. You get better altitude performance. You might not even get all that much better maneuverability, but you definitely get better airspeed, better survivability. And so, again, if you like the Tier 8 J7W1, you're going to love this plane. It's really good. The problem that you run into, keep in mind, is you're now at Tier 10. So there are some pretty heavy hitters up at Tier 10. It's just being focused on what you can do. Own your sphere of influence. You will rock it. But be mindful of some of the enemy aircraft. You're going to have heavy fighters doing boom and zoom on you if you're not paying attention. You could even run into some situations where some enemy ground attackers, IL-40Ps and MEP 1102Bs, they could do some chunk damage on you if you're not paying attention. You're still a very weak airframe. They can put out a ton of damage and can have a significant impact on the battle if you have that kind of focus. I'd love to hear your take on the Jawas, the J7Ws. Were they, when you first got to them, were you just like, what is this plane? I liked the Zeros before it, and then I got this kind of plane, and I hated it. Personally, that was me when I first got them. I'd love to hear your perspective on them. I absolutely love them now, especially the 9 and 10. Is this something that you fly on the regular? Is it something that you completely avoid? Is it something you haven't even taken to because you hated the Zeros? And sometimes those turn fighters are just a slog to get through. Love to hear your opinion. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.